Hello, Arkansas. Hello, America. Hello, world. I'm Happy Caldwell, and I want to invite you to join me for today's Arkansas Alive. It's going to be just a little bit different. I've reserved this day for commentary, and if you have your Bibles, get them. I want you to be able to read with me. So just stay tuned. Arkansas Alive starts right now. We've all heard and seen the news for several weeks now, I guess you could say. We were thrilled that the hostages were going to be released and that the Hamas terrorists were going to lay down their arms and we were going to have peace in the Middle East. I was excited about it. I was looking forward to it, but I was disappointed when it didn't happen that way, but I was not surprised. I refrained from saying so, but that's what I want to share with you today so you'll be aware. Because many of you are thinking, okay, we keep hearing this over and over again. Why doesn't somebody do something? Well, I'm going to tell you why and what they should be doing, what they should not be doing. If you go to Genesis 16, first of all, we look at the source of our enemy's DNA. The enemy is fanatic, radicalized Muslims, terror groups, because they want to destroy Israel, they want to destroy America. You cannot broker peace with these people because they don't want peace. Look at Genesis 16, verse 11. The angel of the Lord said to Sarah, "Behold, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord." This is Hagar's. This is Sarah's maid, Hagar, and said, "You're going to have a child, and you shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard your affliction. He will be a wild man, his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him." This is the DNA of Ishmael, the son of Abraham and Hagar. He was not the promised son. Isaac was the promised son. He was the lineage that was going to carry on the Abrahamic blessing. But this is what happened. It was permissible in those days. If a woman was barren, then she could provide a surrogate, which Sarah did. Hagar was her maid. So Abraham went in, and Hagar conceived, and Ishmael was born. Here you see the DNA of Ishmael and his descendants. Now, this is not to say that every Arab, every Palestinian, every Middle Eastern is bad or a terrorist. I know I have people that I've done business with. They were Palestinian, but they were Christians, and they wanted us to pray for their people, their family, their nation. And I have several friends that are of Arab descent. But this is the DNA that you're dealing with, and you have to go back to that DNA, to that beginning. First of all, you're dealing with people that are radicalized. They want the death of Israel and the death of America. So there is no disarming. There is no peace deal that you can cut with people like this. They're terrorists. They don't want a peace deal. They want Israel off the face of the earth. And even now, with whatever's transpired. They're going to keep killing Israeli soldiers, even if it's just one by one. They're still in the tunnels. They pop up every once in a while and shoot. They're even killing fellow Gazans. They're killing fellow Muslims. That's who they are. That's what they do. They don't know anything, don't want to know anything. They're going to continue to do this until Israel is annihilated. So there you have what you're dealing with. Forget about trying to work a peace deal with these terrorists. They're not interested in a peace deal. And all they've done is play the president and play the prime minister all along. They're not going to lay down their arms. They're not going to release all the hostages. I knew they wouldn't because of the DNA that you're dealing with. But people keep hoping. You keep hoping for the Israelis that have lost family members and the hostages that have died and never been returned to their family, not their remains. So your heart goes out to them. But and I hope Mr. President can understand and see what he's dealing with here. And with that said, I want you to go with me over to 1 Samuel. There's only one thing, there's only one way to deal with people like this. And you'll find it in the Scriptures. It's in the Bible. That's why I wanted to share it with you. You have to completely and totally annihilate these people. That they're killing their own people. They'll kill the Gazans. Everybody's in terror and afraid because this is all they know. This is a death culture. And the only way that you're going to resolve this, and I don't know what they're waiting on in the government in Israel and America, but somebody, and probably America, needs to go in there and do this. And follow with me in 1 Samuel. Let's go over to 1 Samuel 15. Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you to be king over his people, over Israel. But herefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts." This is God's instruction to Saul. Remember the Amalekites, remember what they did to Israel. They were Israel's enemy. How he laid wait for him in the way and when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, spare them not, slay both man and woman, infant, suckling, ox, sheep, camel, ass. They were to kill everything and everybody. Saul gathered the people together, numbered them, 200,000 footmen, 10,000 men of Judah. Saul came to the city of Amalek and laid wait on the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, "You can leave, you can depart, because you are not going to be destroyed. You showed kindness to the children of Israel." So they came out of Egypt and they departed. Okay. So in verse 8, he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. Did you get that? All the people. Everything that was supposed to be destroyed. Everybody. These were enemies of Israel. They had murdered and plundered. And so Saul and the apostles and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, oxen, fatlings, the lambs, all that was good, would not destroy them, but everything that was vile and refuse that they destroyed utterly. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, "It repenteth me that I've set Saul up as king, for he is turned back from following me and hath not performed my commandments." And it grieved Samuel that he cried to the Lord all night. And when Samuel arose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, "Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up a place and gone about and passed on and is gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel said to Saul, Saul, blessing be thou of the Lord, blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. And Samuel said, Oh, yeah? Oh, then what meaneth the bleating of the sheep in my ears, the lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep, the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. Then Samuel said, What the Lord said to me this night, and he said unto him, Lay on. And Samuel said, When you were little in your own sight, were you not made head of the tribes of Israel? So, and the Lord sent you on a journey to utterly destroy, are you listening? The sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Utterly destruction. Why did you not obey the voice of the Lord? But you flew upon the spoil and did evil in the sight of the Lord. And Saul said to Samuel, I obeyed the voice of the Lord. We just took of the spoil, the sheep and the oxen, the chief of the things which should have been destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For the rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. Did you get that? And stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you've rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as being king. And then he goes on down to verse 24. Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I've transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. According to the Bible, and I know this is hard for people that are pacifists and don't like war, etc. There is sometimes a peace that can only be found on the other side of war. And what we're facing now in the Middle East is one of those times. All of those enemies, all of the Hamas, all of the terrorists, according to the Scripture, is not out of focus, have to be destroyed. They're not going to go peacefully. They're not going to surrender the hostages. That's on their only leverage. They're not going to lay down their arms. They are killers. They're demonic. They're demon-possessed. They want to kill Israel, and they want to kill America. That's it. That's the bottom line. Forget about anything else. Now, I know a little bit about the Avrahamic or Abrahamic Accord, because being on the board of CUFI, Christians United for Israel, I've been going to Washington, D.C. for 16, 17 years now. And when Trump's first term, we were invited to the east wing of the White House, next year the west wing of the White House, to sit down with Jared Kushner and Jacob Greenblatt, his attorney, his son-in-law and his attorney, who were working on what is now the Abraham Accords. It's been a great feat. I mean, you have to be almost in denial to deny that God hasn't used President Trump to do miraculous things in the Middle East and now trying in Russia and Ukraine and in America. But he is not the Prince of Peace. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. And even though he's trying to organize the peace, I was involved with these two gentlemen along with the board of CUFI when they were planning what is now Abraham Accords. But if you'll read Joel, it's very important and impressed. No one shall divide the land of Israel. No one. Nobody is going to divide the land of Israel, which means there will not be a two-state solution, as you hear in the news. Cannot be, will not be, according to the Scriptures. And if I had it marked, I'd go over there and read it to you. But that's what they keep trying to do. There cannot be a two-state solution. There cannot be Israel and Israel's enemy living together. Will not happen. It's not going to happen. So when you hear these things on the news, now you know you have something to compare it with. You have to stick with the Scriptures. And it's not unreasonable for those of you that, don't like all the war and the killing. I don't either. But it's not unreasonable if the president would rally the troops and IDF and whatever, and they all go down and I don't know why they haven't done it, but they're still trying to play diplomat. And that's what got Saul in trouble. He was afraid of the people. They're afraid of the people. But the only way that you're going to solve this problem is to eradicate the terrorists. I'll use the word kill. They are going to have to be killed, every one of them. And you can't leave anything alive because, that's their DNA. And, it's going to bubble up and try to, if you don't put the fire out, the flames will try to rekindle. Here it is in Joel, talking about Armageddon. And he says, multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision, the sun and the moon. And he goes on and talks about all of the unnatural things that are going on. This is during the tribulation period. And he is letting them know that they cannot divide and they will not be able to divide my land. If you keep reading, you will see the emphasis. Let the heathen be weakened and come up the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put the sickle in, the harvest is ripe, get you down, the press is full, fat overflows, their wickedness is great, and the day of the Lord is getting ready to take place because they wanted to divide God's land. It won't happen. Every president's tried it that had any guts, but every president has not been successful, and nobody will be. It cannot be done. Now go over to Ezekiel chapter 38. And if you remember these things, and you can go back and follow along behind me. And you go over to Ezekiel 38. Now, if you take all the things that are going on and you put them in this puzzle, you first go to the DNA of the descendants of Ishmael. They are never going to surrender. They're always going to be at war with somebody. And most of the wars that you see and hear about in the Middle East are tribal wars. I mean, they're even Muslims fighting other Muslims. It's a tribal thing. Who's going to control? That's been going on for 4,000 years. And you're not going to stop it with some, piece of paper, peace treaty. It's going to have to be fought out, or you're going to have to stop it with the shedding of blood. And like I said, sometimes there's a peace that can only be found on the other side of war. Negotiations and pressure and all that kind of stuff will not do it. Not when you've got a demon-possessed host. Okay, let's go to Ezekiel 38. And eventually, Russia is going to bring herself forward with all of her counterparts. And I can't convert the names for you, but Russia is going to invade Israel from the north. And that includes Iran, Libya, Turkey. All of her cohorts are going to eventually, because the Arab nations are a little bit uneasy about this so-called peace deal now. and they don't want to mess with Hamas, and so somebody's going to deal with it. And be careful when you start hearing peace, peace, and we hear it now. We hear about a brokered peace, a board of peace, and I've even heard Trump called the Prince of Peace. He's not Prince of Peace. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and total unilateral peace will only come after the Battle of Armageddon, when Jesus himself defeats the Antichrist, and it says, with the brightness of his coming and the breath of his nostrils. We'll be there with Jesus, but he fights the battle. The church will be there with him. He fights the battle. Antichrist is destroyed at the Battle of Armageddon. And he sets up his peace. Antichrist has tried to set up the peace at the beginning of the tribulation, but he lies and he deceives and he breaks the treaty. And, we might be facing a similar situation. We're not in the not in the tribulation yet, but these things keep happening, and you see resemblances of them. So at the end of the tribulation, Armageddon, Jesus defeats everybody and everything, the Antichrist, and then he sets up his kingdom, called the millennial reign, calls the 1,000-year reign of Christ, and there's going to be peace for everybody, and the government will be upon his shoulders. But we see a potential here of Russia becoming more dependent on China and other people like that, because they're really facing some problems, agricultural problems. They don't have food to feed their people. They're killing their own people also. Financially, they're broke. They just keep passing the buck down the lane, and they're going to need some resources. So you go to Ezekiel, and it says in verse 1, verse 2, Son of man, set your face against Gog. That's the demon spirit, the principality over the land of Magog, which is Russia. Chief prince Meshach, Tubal, prophesy against them, and say, I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn you back and put hooks in your jaws. That's important that you underline that, and put hooks in your jaws. That refers back to what God did with Pharaoh in Moses' day. He put a hook in his jaw, and he drew him into battle on purpose. Moses said, let my people go. And the other day when Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke to the United Nations, he ended his speech with, let my people go. Oh, man. Moses said, let my people go. And God puts a hook in Pharaoh's jaw and starts dragging him, and he goes after the Israelites, and then God drowns them in the Red Sea. Okay, I will put a hook in your jaw and bring you forth all your army, horses, horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields and handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, all of them, Gomer, Togarmah, be prepared. And all your company, you are assembled, and be thou a guard. After many days you'll be visited. In the latter years you'll come to the land that is brought back from the sword and has gathered out many people against the mountains of Israel, which always been waste, but it's brought forth out the nations and dwell safely of them. You shall ascend, now listen to it, you shall ascend, come like a storm, you shall be like a cloud to cover the land, and all bands and land and many people with you. Thus saith the Lord God, it'll all come to pass, that at the same time shall things come into your mind, and you shall think an evil thought. The marginal reference says, a mischievous purpose. And you will say, I will go up to the land of the unwalled villages. I'll go to them that are at rest and that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. To take a spoil. They say, I'm going to take a spoil, and I'm going to take a prey, and I'm going to turn your hand upon the desolate places that are now habited, and upon the people that are. They've gathered about the nations which have gotten cattle and goods and dwell in the midst of the land, Sheba, Dedan, merchants of Tyre. He goes on to talk about all the terrible things that are going to happen, the nations that are going to be there. And then he says in verse 18, I will come against you, Gog, when you come against the land of Israel. My fury will come up in my face. And for my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. There'll be a great shaking in that land of Israel. In other words, he's going to utterly destroy all those that come against Israel. God always fights for Israel, and he is not changed. He is going to continue to do so. So you have just a little template to put out there to see what's going on. And it's not over. It's not even halfway over. And right at the time that you see these things getting worse and worse and worse, the catching away of the church is going to take place, the rapture of the church company, and Jesus is going to say, come up here, and all you believers are going to rise to meet him in the air. We're going to spend 7 years. We're going to have the marriage supper of the Lamb. We're going to have the judgment seat of Christ, where we get rewarded for our works that we've done in his body. And those 7 years, there's going to be horror on the earth. Men will cry out for rocks to fall on them. There's going to be tribulation like nobody's ever seen. And in the end of that 7-year tribulation, then Antichrist is going to come, and Jesus is going to meet him in the valley of Jehoshaphat, Megiddo, and he will be utterly destroyed. So watch these things, but always compare them with the Scripture. And I'll have more commentary, but you can follow what's going on right now with what we've studied today. Don't be afraid, be prepared. Look up, watch, listen, continue in what you've learned. Preach the gospel to every creature. Jesus is coming soon. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. Remember, Jesus is Lord of Arkansas and wherever you're living in the world, too.
Send your questions, comments, and testimonies to Happy Caldwell at Post Office Box 26207, Little Rock, Arkansas 72221, or email happycaldwell@vtntv.com. Remember to follow VTN on Facebook at VTN Your Arkansas Christian Connection, and follow Happy Caldwell on X at Happy_Caldwell. VTN is on Roku. Search VTN in the channel store and add us to your lineup. Today's episode is available to watch on demand at VTNTV.com and click Watch. You can also watch VTN via live stream at VTNTV.com.